Let you kids get to bed, I get the storybook.
The fatal second term. Trump wins again, and this happens.
Chapter 1. The Road to 2024. The 2024 presidential election was unlike any other in American history. As the last quarter of the year quickly went by, tensions in the nation were palpable. The political landscape was divided, and both candidates, former President Donald Trump and Senator Kamala Harris, represented two starkly different visions for the country. With social, economic, and political issues reaching a boiling point, the stakes were high, and the rhetoric surrounding the election only served to heighten the tension.
Donald Trump, having lost in 2020, came back with a vengeance, determined to return to the White House. His rallies were fiery, and he promised to make America real again. His base, as loyal as ever, was drawn to his unapologetic style and claims that he would restore the country to what it once was, a place for the forgotten American. His opponents accused him of stoking division and catering to extremist groups. But Trump remained undeterred.
Kamala Harris, now a seasoned politician and current vice president under President Joe Biden, saw the moment as her chance to lead the nation into a future of unity and justice. As the first woman of color to be a major party's nominee, her campaign carried the weight of history. Harris was committed to reforming criminal justice, tackling climate change, and continuing the progress made during her time as vice president. But with the baggage of the Biden administration on her shoulders, she had to fight criticisms over her record, including the chaotic wars in Ukraine and Israel, as well as economic concerns post-pandemic. Chapter 2. No champagne for this campaign. As the campaigns went into overdrive, both candidates wasted no time setting the tone for their messages. Back in 2023, Trump launched his bid in front of thousands of supporters in Florida, where he played up the notion that America had been derailed by liberal elites, claiming that only he could return it to its former glory. "They're trying to change our great nation," Trump said to thunderous applause, "but we're going to stop them, and we're going to take back our country." On the other side, Harris was handed her campaign after a frail Biden dropped out of the race one day in late summer 2024. She emphasized unity and progress, casting her vision for a nation where people of all backgrounds could thrive. "We are stronger when we stand together," she said. "This election is about choosing hope over fear, justice over division, and the future over the past." Despite her powerful message, Harris faced an uphill battle. Trump's supporters were vocal and passionate, while the Democratic base seemed more fragmented. Some progressives felt she wasn't progressive enough, while moderates feared her liberal policies might alienate swing voters. Chapter 3. The Media Circus. The media played a critical role in shaping public opinion during the campaign. News networks were filled with pundits debating everything from Trump's controversial rhetoric to Harris's handling of her time as vice president. Social media was a battleground where misinformation and heated arguments flooded timelines. Trump, as always, was a master of using the media to his advantage. He dominated headlines with provocative statements and wild claims, keeping the press focused on him at all times. His social media posts were a constant source of both outrage and amusement, keeping his name in the spotlight. Harris, on the other hand, sought to project a calmer, more composed image. She focused on policy and held town halls to connect with everyday Americans. However, no matter how much she emphasized issues like healthcare, education, and climate action, she often found herself defending the Biden administration's decisions. This led to tough questions in interviews, especially regarding the administration's economic struggles and inflation concerns. Chapter 4. The Debate. The first and only presidential debate between Trump and Harris was watched by millions, with both candidates eager to make their case to the American people. The atmosphere was electric, and tensions were high as they stood face to face. Trump took the stage with his usual bravado, attacking Harris from the start. He blamed her for what he called 4 years of failure under Biden, particularly pointing to the economy, crime, and immigration. Kamala Harris and her party have turned this country upside down, he said. They're killing jobs, letting criminals run free, and opening our borders. Harris, cool and composed, countered Trump's attacks by pointing out the damage his presidency had done. Mr. Trump wants to go backward, she said. Back to a time of division, chaos, and fear. We need a president who will move us forward, not one who will drag us back into the past. As the debate progressed, the differences between the two candidates became clearer. Trump leaned into his America First policies, appealing to his base with promises of lower taxes and tougher immigration laws. Harris focused on inclusivity, emphasizing the need for reform in areas like healthcare, social justice, and education. The debate ended with both candidates declaring victory, and the media, as always, was divided on who performed better. But one thing was certain: the country was more divided than ever, which is probably why Trump declared that he refused to participate in a second debate with that woman. Chapter 5: Political Ads and the Final Push. As Election Day approached, the airwaves were flooded with political ads. Trump's ads focused on painting Harris as a radical who would destroy the American way of life. They showed scenes of cities on fire, rising crime rates, Venezuelan immigrants running rampant, and economic turmoil, all while Trump's voice assured voters that he was the only one who could save America from further destruction. Harris's ads, by contrast, portrayed Trump as a dangerous, divisive figure who had failed the nation in its time of need. Her ads featured hopeful messages about rebuilding America, addressing climate change, and restoring trust in government. They often highlighted her role in leading criminal justice reform and pushing for racial equality. Both campaigns crisscrossed the country, holding rallies in battleground states. Trump continued to draw huge crowds despite the 2 assassination attempts on his life during the summer, his rallies often resembling rock concerts more than political events. Harris, while not as bombastic, held her own, meeting with smaller groups of voters and hosting virtual events to connect with a more diverse audience. Chapter 6: Election Day and Beyond. Election Day finally arrived, and the nation held its breath. Early results showed a tight race, with both candidates trading leads in key swing states. As the night dragged on, it became clear that the election would be one of the closest in American history. In the end, after all the votes were counted, Donald Trump won by just 27 electoral votes. His supporters celebrated in the streets, while Harris conceded the race, promising to continue fighting for the values she believed in. However, the celebration was short-lived. Just days after his victory, rumors began circulating online that several pro-Trump militia groups had been preparing for violence if Trump had lost. Some had even been discussing plans for a second civil war. This revelation shocked the nation, and law enforcement agencies quickly moved to investigate these groups, thankful that Trump won so these alleged acts of violence weren't committed. Chapter 7: The Inauguration and Tragedy. 2 months later, on a cold January morning in 2025, Donald Trump prepared to be sworn in as the 47th President of the United States. Washington, D.C. was filled with both supporters and protesters, and the atmosphere was tense. As Trump placed his hand on the Bible and took the oath of office, tragedy struck. Midway through his acceptance speech, the grinning devil clutched his chest and suddenly collapsed before millions of viewers. The Pennsylvania assassination attempt scare of last June flooded back into people's memories as paramedics rushed to his side, but it was too late. Donald Trump had suffered a fatal heart attack, dying on the very day he was set to take office for a second term. The nation was left in shock. His supporters mourned the loss of their leader, while the country grappled with the sudden change in leadership. Newly sworn-in Vice President-elect Vance was thrust into the spotlight, and the political future of the country was thrown into uncertainty. Chapter 8: Aftermath and Reflection. In the weeks and months following Trump's death, the country began to reflect on the tumultuous election. Kamala Harris, though defeated, emerged as a leading voice in the Democratic Party, calling for unity and healing in a nation deeply divided, as a few Trump loyalists began small riots around the country out of frustration for their sudden loss. Investigations into these culprits revealed that several militia groups had come close to a nationwide second civil war. Law enforcement made several arrests, and the trials of militia leaders became a national spectacle. As America slowly recovered from the chaos of the election and surprise ending of the Donald, it was clear that the scars of 2024 would remain for years to come. That spring, an official autopsy was released by the medical examiner's office, which revealed that President Trump's arteries were full of bullshit, which blocked blood flow to his heart, unaliving him.